Now, you may not instantly recognise the name, but Mark Dawson is the author of more than 30 novels with more than 2 million downloads of his books. The Salisbury writer was starting on a new Russian spy story when the Novichok attacks suddenly unfolded around his home city and truth became stranger than fiction. Those events were to influence his latest book, Sleepers, which is out this week. He joined me on the sofa to tell me more.
It was crazy. I was writing a book inspired by the Litvinenko poisoning from 2006, and I was actually in my office on a Sunday, snowy Sunday in March, writing away, and then literally 2 minutes from where I was writing, the Skripals were found on a bench in the Maltings in Salisbury, and everything from that point on changed quite a lot.
And because of the sensitivities of it, and because of the tragedy involved in the true story and what has happened in Salisbury, did you change things for that very reason?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I was looking at polonium, which is obviously, that was what Litvinenko was poisoned with, and I wanted to move, I felt I had to move away from that to something completely different. So it's not set in Salisbury, it's set in Southwold, where I'm very near to where I'm from, and the story is very, very different. It still involves a Russian spy, but that's kind of the jumping off point, and it goes in a different way.
Because there's a fine line, isn't it, between fact and fiction?
Very much so. I mean, and if I had written this before this had happened, the kind of the Salisbury story with the bungling Russian assassins, my readers would probably have said this is unrealistic. It couldn't have happened, and yet every day seems to bring a new wrinkle to the story.
Is it as much about the story that you are writing as it is about the process in terms of the publishing? Because you're quite different. You're self-published, aren't you?
I'm a hybrid author, so it means I'm partly self-published and partly traditionally published. But this book, the Milton series, I published that myself. And I find the whole process is incredibly liberating and financially tends to be more viable. Well, just on a basic level, the main retailers will give me 70% of the cover price, whereas if I had a traditional deal, 10% probably is most I'll be looking at.
But to do that, you have got to be quite savvy. Has that taken you a long time to realise that self-publishing works for you? Wouldn't necessarily work for everybody.
No, you do need to be, the kind of thing you need to know is when to take off your creative hat and put on your business hat. So you do have to learn about advertising and promotion and coming to do things like this. It's not necessarily for everyone. And for those writers, then a traditional deal is probably the best route. But for lots and lots of writers, more and more these days, this is a very viable way to get your words out to the public.
What's next? Have you got books lined up that you've got ideas for?
Well, I've just come back from Los Angeles, and I'm working on a Hollywood deal for my Beatrix Rose series. So hopefully next year might have some exciting news about that.
Oh, great. So it might be made in some sort of film or a series or whatever.
Looking like TV, yeah.
OK. And if there's one tip that you'll give anyone, because you weren't a novelist to start with, you weren't an author to start with, you were a lawyer before this, what's the one tip you would give anybody who thinks that they've got a book in them?
That's easy. Just sit down and write. You have to write a lot of words to find your voice and to be confident and to know whether you can tell your story. And it is just a question of getting down there, discipline and writing.
Mark, it's great to meet you. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with everything.